Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be talking about another active pattern to be setting up across parts of the central and eastern U.S. Next week, we'll be seeing multiple shortwave troughs moving across some of the same areas, moving from parts of the plains and also moving through parts of the Midwest and maybe eventually into parts of the Ohio Valley as well. These multiple shortwaves does bring the threat of some winter weather, snow, freeze, rain, sleet, even if we even have a flash flood threat as well, and even severe weather does return to the forecast as well. We'll be going over those threats in this video. Before we get started with this video, if you guys would like weather related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll be having more updates on this subject as well over the next couple of days. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. So we'll get started with the watch warning advisory display. Certainly there's some things going on out there. We got a lot of winter weather stuff going on across parts of the north. Even some winter storm watches across parts of Montana, Wyoming, and back in the parts of South Dakota as well. Some areas could see a decent amount of snow out of that. But one thing I do want to mention is what's going on in the Northeast right now. We actually got snow squall warnings for parts of Vermont, all the way down in the parts of New Jersey, New York, and also Pennsylvania as well. This is the same part of that cold front that brought in an intense snow squall for parts of the Midwest last night, parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa. It's also brought thunder snow up there as well. And that same cold front's now moved through parts of the Northeast. It's going to bring a lot of wind as well. And this is going to continue to move off to the north, to the east as well. So areas further east, like in the parts of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, gotta be aware that there is a snow squall coming in as well, and it can be intense as well. We're talking about snowfall rates going to be 1 to 2 inches per hour, a lot of wind with it as well. There's also been multiple reports of whiteout conditions with this as well, so you definitely have to be careful with these snow squalls as well later today. And that's pretty much it here, just by looking on this map here. Most of the country kind of looking on the quieter side for the most part anyway. Let's start off by checking out some model guidance here. So there's that same low that's gonna bring some of those snow squalls later today. That's gonna be moving off to the east by later tonight. And here's our next system here. Got a 993 millibar low in the parts of North Dakota in the Canadian border. That's going to move almost due east over really Sunday. And here's our system here that's going to bring in quite a bit of snow for parts of Montana, Wyoming, even for parts of Dakotas as well. This same system here is going to bring in quite a bit of snow for areas a little bit further east as well. This is going to be a pretty large storm system, but it's not a very strong low. At least some models say it's not going to be a strong low, 1,007 millibars, but it is enough to cause a lot of problems out across a good chunk of U.S. Not looking to be a very intense system here, but it is pretty widespread, as you can tell here. You got a very large snow shield that goes as far west as parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, and it goes as far east as Maine. I mean, that's a very large snow shield. At the same time, there is some light sleet and freezing rain, so there could be some ice accumulations with this as well. At the same time, if we look a little bit further south here, there is multiple rounds of some heavy showers and also some heavy thunderstorms as well, which could lead to some flash flooding problems for parts of the lower Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, even back into parts of Arkansas on Tuesday. It's also going to bring a severe weather risk for parts of the Mid-South as well during the day on Tuesday as well, which we'll talk a little bit more deeper to that here in a moment. So that low pressure system moves off to the east, and here comes another piece of energy that moves in. It does have a little bit of mixed precipitation with it, with a bit of freezing rain, sleet, maybe a little bit of snow, but it doesn't have a whole lot of juice with it. But here comes your next system right here, which does begin to gain strength here later in the week. It does have a decent amount of snow on the backside here, but it's not really much way of heavy snow. There might be a couple pockets of heavy snow, but I think it's mostly just going to be light to moderate, at least at this time here. You also then again have some freezing rain and sleet as well. Now the bad news is with some of these lows here is that when it comes to freezing rain, it's mostly light to moderate, so we could see decent ice accumulations from each of these systems as well. So we do need to keep an eye on that ice threat as well over the next couple of days here, as some of those rates there are going to be on the lighter side. Instead of flipping seeing heavy freeze rain, it looks like these systems here could bring more in the way of light to moderate freeze rain. So we do need to keep an eye on that as well. And of course, these storm systems do have a pretty good snow threat on the backside of these lows here as well. Certainly going to be an interesting week here to watch to see how these lows go. But either way, it's a pretty active pattern for sure. Let's check out the Camo. It's pretty similar here, except for the first one though. With the first low here, it's actually a little bit stronger than the GFS. Something you don't see very often is that the Canadian model is stronger than the GFS. And it also has a little bit more of a northern track here as well. Now, I don't think the high pressure system up in Canada is going to be too much of an issue here. It's going to be pretty far off to the northwest. It is a strong high at 1,050 millibar high. It's a strong high, but it is pretty far off to the northwest. I don't think it'll be too much of an issue here unless some of these models here are estimating the cold air on the backside of this. That's a possibility as well. But the KMO likes to have a stronger system, and when you have a stronger system, it typically takes a more northwestern track here. So there is some uncertainty here with the first wave. But either way, it does have quite a bit of snow on the backside of it, with some mixing of sleet and freeze rain in between. It also still has that flash flood risk over some of the same areas as well, despite it having a different low pressure system track. The next couple systems, really, it likes to have the secondary system a little bit more amplified as well. It takes a more northwestern track here. It also has some heavier precipitation with it as well. So the KMO likes to take a more stronger low type of route with these here. But then again, it could change. Still plenty of time for changes. Let's check out the European model. And it likes to have an even more stronger low with the first one. And you can see here, it does have some heavy pockets, some heavier snow on the backside of the low as well. But also at the same time, you do have some mix of freeze and rain as well, not too far off. But either way, it likes to take it a more amplified and a more northwestern track. And it still has that threat for some flooding problems over to some of the same areas. Eventually, here comes your next couple waves here. And it seems like the European model is kind of in between the GFS and the Canadian model with the secondary low. And by the way, the secondary low for parts of the eastern US, it should arrive around Thursday and it should last into parts of Friday as well. So yeah, decent amount of uncertainty here with these systems here, with the track of the low and the strength for the low as well. So there's certainly still plenty of uncertainty here. But really in this type of range here, really the best way to kind of look at it is the ensemble members. And from the GFS ensembles perspective, it wants to take more of a GFS type of look. It's a little bit further south of the low, and it's also weaker. But regardless of a further south and weaker low, a lot of these members do have quite a bit of snow on the back side of it. Also, at the same time, you do have a lot of rain going on just south of the low as well, going over some of the same areas, which could lead to flooding problems. And then kind of in between, you got a decent amount of freezing rain and sleet as well. Let's talk about the secondary system later in the week here. Here's a little wave here. Could bring in some light, sleet, and freezing rain with it, but then a bigger wave comes in behind that. And you can see there is some uncertainty with this low here as well. You got some that's further south, and you also got some that's further north. For the time being, it's too early to talk about snowfall amounts and ice accumulations for the secondary system. We're still a little bit far out. Just keep in mind that we are still a little bit far out from that setup as well. Even for the first low as well, given by the uncertainty, I think it's still a little bit early to talk about snowfall accumulations, ice accumulations. But all I can say there is that with the snowfall threat, somebody could see several inches of snow out of this. It's certainly possible. And when it comes to sleet and ice accumulations, there could be a decent amount of it out there as well, especially when it comes to ice. Wherever you got models that show more of light to moderate freezing rain, which is a little bit concerning as well. But we'll definitely have to see where the trends are going to be going here over the next couple of days here with some of these systems here. But really, one of the things here really depends on is how dense the cold air is going to be. Our models aren't done with it. We'll have to wait and see here. Still plenty of uncertainty here with these systems here at this time. Here's the NAM model. It only goes as far out as for the first low, but it likes to take a little bit more of a northern track here, which we've seen this before where some of these models here was certainly very interesting with models this time here because back in the past, usually the first northern ones are the NAM and the GFS. Doesn't look to be a case here, which is very interesting as well. But I do believe as we get closer to the event here, I do believe we're going to see a little bit more of a separate trend here on some of these models here. But then again, it has to depend on how strong this low is going to be. Still plenty of uncertainty here. But regardless, it still has some of the same threats. We just don't know what the track of the low is going to be. Now, what we do know is the first low does bring a severe weather risk. If we check its storm prediction outlook, this is for the rest of today. Maybe some thunder in southeastern Florida. Day 2, maybe some thunder around the Texas Arcana region. And then you move on to day 3, which is Monday. You got slight risk for severe weather for parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, with a marginal risk surrounding for some of those surrounding areas as well. And I do believe all threats are possible in the setup here. Could see some hail, maybe some damaging winds, and there might be an isolated tornado threat as well. I don't think the tornado threat is very large on this setup here as well, at least compared to the last one, which it did have a greater potential, but we didn't really quite get there on the last storm system, which is a good thing. However, in day 4, there is a 50% slight risk for severe weather for parts of northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, far northeastern Texas, the northern half of Mississippi, southwestern Tennessee, and also northwestern Alabama as well. Even on this day here as well, I don't think it's a major risk for severe weather as well. I think if trends do continue, I think these days are going to maintain as a slight risk for the time being. But let's get in a little bit more detail with the severe weather risk. We'll start off with the NAM model. It doesn't take more of a northern track here. Now, with this setup here, there is going to be a decent amount of instability to work with on the setup here. But you do notice early on in the event here, this is going to be another overnight event. As you can see here, this is in the middle of the night, Monday night. So we're not going to have storms during the day on Monday because we're going to have what's known as a cap. Plus, you do have plenty of sign in going on as well. So that's going to help decrease that severe weather potential. However, all that stuff here is going to erode overnight. And whatever we have left when it comes to instability can really determine your severe weather potential. So you can see here when we get into the early morning hours on Tuesday, there is a decent amount of instability out there. When you get into those blue colors, that's at least 1,000 joules per kilogram. We also do notice at the same time that the sign in values are backing off at the same time as well. Let's get a sounding up there and see what the NAM is showing. So you can see here the cap is starting to weaken. There's actually a decent amount of wind shear indicated by the NAM as well. But there's also plenty of instability as well. And then also them lap rates are pretty good as well. That's going to help increase that hail threat as well. So then again, all hazards are possible with this as well. And any discrete cell that forms out there could turn into a supercell as well. And as you get deeper into Tuesday here, still a decent amount of instability out there as well, but we don't have much of an issue when it comes to signing in as well. If we go to central Mississippi, again, over some of the same areas that had a threat for severe weather last time, you can see here, not as much wind shear to work with. That should be noted that there's not as much wind shear to work with on the setup here. Actually, as the day goes on throughout Tuesday, as that low starts to move away, our low of jet starts to weaken as the day goes on. Now, we may have plenty of instability here, but the faster that low moves away, the weaker the wind shear values are going to be. So that's another thing to note as well. The hodograph is pretty small, but it's still supportive for maybe an isolated tornado threat as well. But then again, not a very big risk for severe weather. I'll say the main threat will probably be damaging winds But also do notice here is that when you look at 850 millibars, which is your low of a jet, you notice it's not very strong. Let's talk about the low of a jet for a little bit. So here's a look at your low of a jet. Now on the last event, where we're talking about the low of a jet being like 70 to 90 knots. On this up here, we're probably talking about anywhere from 45 to 55 knots, maybe a little bit above 60 knots for some areas, especially for up north. So the low of a jet is going to be weaker on this up here, thankfully, but it is still strong enough to support some severe weather as well. Even for Monday night's severe weather risk, you still have a pretty good low of a jet over those areas as well. So you still have the low of a jet out there. We'll check out the GFS, and you can see it's pretty similar, maybe a little bit stronger here. That's where the low pressure system is a little bit further south. If it does come a little bit further south, we can see a little bit of a stronger low of a jet as well. Plus, this stronger low of a jet could linger a little bit longer as well in the mid-south as well. So there's still a lot of possibilities out there as well of how everything can turn out as well. Let's talk about dew points here. There's going to be plenty of dew points out there. Dew points, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue here for Monday's setup or even Tuesday's setup. With a low track further south here, your 60 dew point line only gets as far north as the Missouri and Arkansas border. Most of the other malls have it further north, so likely this will be a little bit further north, maybe a little bit deeper into parts of Missouri, maybe into parts of Kentucky and Illinois as well. Which if you do check out the NAM, which has a further northern track, you do see there with the dew points, they are a little bit further north as well. And during the day on Tuesday, we do have pretty good dew point values out there as well, mid 60s out there. So not a bad setup for severe weather. I don't think it's going to be as significant as last event, at least the potential anyway. The reason why that the last event did not really work out. If you see my tweets on Twitter, I talk about there was a lot of unorganized convection in the parts of Arkansas, Louisiana. That's probably one of the main reasons why that happened. Even though that we have breaks and clouds out there out in Mississippi, you still have a lot of unorganized convection. So that brought the potential for severe weather a little bit lower. And from from what I've heard so far, I believe they're still doing damage surveys out in Alabama. That we only had a few tornadoes, and I don't think we haven't had any significant tornadoes as well, which is EF2 or higher. So, at least for a time being, at least that's from what I've heard for now. I'm not sure if there's doing damage surveys out there or not, but that's what happened on last setups of event. I don't think there's much anything else to look into. I guess we could check out the significant weather parameter. You can see here, numbers are not very high out there. But you do notice here with a stronger low, a little bit more of instability to work with, it does have a greater risk. But also, then again, you still have a cap in some of those areas in there. But we'll keep an eye on this closely here over the next couple days here. Which with this sounding here, with a more wind shear to work with, and having a low a little bit stronger, taking more northern track, there'll be a little bit more wind shear to work with. So I have to wait and see what the trends are over the next couple days on the setup here as well. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. I think one of my biggest concerns out of everything else is going to be the flash flood potential. This is the Weather Predictions outlook here for the next 7 days when it comes to rainfall. A lot of rain out there for parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, northern Alabama, northwestern Georgia, and far northeastern Arkansas. We could see anywhere from 4 to maybe as high as 6 inches of rain. That's a lot of rain, guys. Now, for areas and parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, we had a lot of rain from Thursday's event. We had a widespread off of 2 to 4 inches of rain. If you see my last video, one of the strong storms came through and it dumped a lot of rain in a short period of time, which I've definitely heard that there's been some big time flooding problems out there in the county. So our grounds are pretty saturated. We do not need any more rain. And seeing this in the forecast, it's not a good thing. If this does verify, we could see some flash flooding issues and also some major river flooding problems as well. This is the GFS almost mean here. This is through all of our storm systems. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursday through Friday. And this is how much rain you could end up with. It's going to come in multiple waves. And I do believe that the first wave, which is Tuesday, I think it's going to be the more significant wave than the other ones. But you never know. It could change for the second wave since it's a little bit further out. But regardless, there's a lot of rain on here. At least 4 inches of rain showing up in GFS ensembles. If we check out other models, like the GFS model, for example, it's got some pretty high amounts out there, with over 8 inches of rain. Or if we check out the Canadian model, look at all this rain out here. It even extends all the way back into parts of Arkansas as well. So you kind of get the idea here that there could be a lot of rain coming with this setup here as well. And here's the European model. It doesn't go for the entire event just yet here, at least from on here. We'll probably check it out on this site here really quick since it's done. You can see here on the end result here, a lot of rain out there for parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, back into parts of Arkansas. We definitely have to pay attention for this flash flood risk as well, especially on Tuesday as well, which honestly I think that's the day we really need to be focused on as well. We'll definitely keep an eye on this over the next couple of days. But anyways, guys, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, the comment section down below. Answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye and have a good day.